The sun had just begun to rise over the vast, dusty plains of the American Southwest. The sky was a soft mixture of orange and pink, stretching endlessly above the dry, rolling hills. Samuel, a lone cowboy, rode slowly along a narrow trail, the familiar rhythm of his horse's hooves keeping him company. He was a man who had spent most of his life on the range, moving from one small ranch to another, always seeking work, always seeking something more than the lonely life that seemed to follow him. His clothes were dusty and worn, and the wide-brimmed hat on his head had faded from years under the sun. Despite his rough exterior, his eyes were sharp and observant, taking in every detail of the land as he moved through it. Samuel had been traveling for days, searching for a small settlement rumored to have supplies he could trade for his ranch back home. The journey had been difficult. The desert was unforgiving. With the scorching sun during the day and freezing temperatures at night, he had survived on little water and meager meals, often stopping to rest only when exhaustion made it impossible to continue. But something about this land drew him in the endless horizon, the quiet beauty, and the sense that life here was simple, though harsh. As he rode, he noticed movement in the distance, a small cluster of structures partially hidden by rocks and trees. His curiosity was piqued, but caution remained. Travelers like him had to be careful. The land was not just wild but dangerous. Bandits and raiders were known to roam these areas, and he had learned the hard way not to trust strangers immediately. But as he got closer, Samuel realized this was not an ordinary settlement. There was a rhythm to the life here, a sense of purpose and care that he didn't expect. People moved deliberately, tending to tasks that seemed both urgent and routine. Among them was a young Apache woman named Kaya. She was tending to an injured elder, carefully cleaning a wound and applying a simple bandage made from cloth and herbs. Her movements were gentle yet confident, showing a deep knowledge of healing that had been passed down through generations. Samuel watched from a distance, impressed by her skill and the calm way she handled a situation that could easily have caused panic. There was something in her presence that commanded respect, a quiet strength that made it clear she was someone not to be underestimated. Kaya noticed Samuel watching and instinctively reached for her bow, though she didn't raise it fully. Her people had taught her to be cautious of outsiders, especially strangers who came without warning. She stepped forward slightly, keeping her eyes on him, but her posture relaxed enough to show she wasn't immediately hostile. Samuel, sensing her hesitation, slowly lifted a hand in greeting. There was a long moment of silence as they studied each other, two worlds meeting in a shared space yet divided by culture and caution. Finally, Samuel spoke in a calm voice. "I mean no harm. I'm just passing through." His words were careful, chosen to show respect without assuming familiarity. Kaya's eyes narrowed slightly, assessing the truth in his voice. She had seen many strangers in her life, some helpful, others dangerous. Trust was earned here, not freely given. After a tense moment, Kaya lowered her bow slightly. She motioned for him to come closer, though not too close. "You must be careful in these lands," she said softly. "There are dangers you may not understand." Her voice was steady, but there was a hint of curiosity, as if she wanted to know why this stranger had come to their hidden settlement. Samuel nodded, keeping his horse at a safe distance. "I'm looking for supplies, something to help me with my ranch. I didn't mean to intrude." He paused, glancing around at the small settlement. "I didn't expect to find such a strong community here." Kaya gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. "Strength comes from unity," she said. "Each of us has a role. Each of us must care for one another." Her words carried weight, not just as a statement of fact but as a philosophy of life. Samuel found himself impressed not just by her words, but by the way she lived them. As he dismounted, Samuel realized that this place was unlike any he had ever seen. The Apache people moved with purpose, each person contributing in some way to the survival of the group. Children ran with careful supervision, elders offered advice and guidance, and others worked quietly to prepare food or mend clothing. There was a rhythm here, a balance that he couldn't help but admire. Kaya approached him, her eyes studying him carefully. "If you are here to help, then perhaps you can assist with something," she said. "But you must follow instructions exactly. There is no room for mistakes." Samuel agreed immediately. He had learned long ago that survival often depended on listening, on following guidance from those who knew the land better than he did. She led him to a small enclosure where a few members of the tribe were lying down, clearly in pain from injuries or illness. Kaya explained that a sudden outbreak had caused many to fall ill, and the resources were limited. Samuel listened intently, realizing that the situation was more serious than he had anticipated. The responsibility on Kaya's shoulders was immense, and yet she carried it with grace and determination. Over the next few hours, Samuel helped where he could, fetching water, preparing herbal remedies under Kaya's instruction, and assisting with minor tasks. He noticed how everyone respected her, not just because she was skilled but because she genuinely cared. Her dedication was inspiring, and Samuel found himself drawn not just to the work but to the quiet strength she exhibited in every action. As the sun climbed higher, the heat became intense. Samuel wiped the sweat from his brow and glanced at Kaya, who showed no sign of slowing down. She moved from one person to another, never hesitating, never showing fatigue. Though he could see the strain in her eyes, there was a moment when she paused, placing a hand on the shoulder of a young child who had been crying. She whispered something comforting, and the child's sobs eased. Samuel realized then that her strength was not just in her body or skill but in her heart. By midday, Samuel had a clearer understanding of the challenges Kaya faced. The tribe's survival depended on her knowledge, her courage, and her willingness to act quickly in the face of danger. And yet, despite the burden, she never complained, never sought recognition. Samuel felt a deep respect for her, a respect that went beyond admiration and bordered on awe. As the afternoon wore on, a sudden noise in the distance caught their attention. The sound of hooves, faint but growing louder. Kaya's eyes narrowed, and she quickly assessed the situation. "We may have visitors," she said quietly. Samuel's heart quickened, sensing that these were not friendly strangers. He moved closer to Kaya, ready to follow her lead, trusting her instincts entirely. Kaya issued rapid instructions to those around her, directing them to secure the most vulnerable members of the tribe. Samuel followed without question, impressed by her ability to stay calm under pressure. There was no panic, only determination, and a clear plan of action. In that moment, Samuel realized that courage was not the absence of fear but the ability to act despite it. The visitors, a small group of men on horseback, soon came into view. They were strangers, armed and cautious, but not immediately hostile. Samuel and Kaya exchanged a glance, understanding without words that this situation required careful handling. Kaya stepped forward, her posture firm, her voice steady as she addressed the newcomers. Samuel remained close behind, ready to act if needed, but confident that Kaya's leadership was enough to guide them through this tense encounter. By the end of the day, the situation had calmed. The strangers left, and the tribe was safe once more for now. Samuel looked at Kaya, noticing for the first time how much strain the day's events had put on her. Yet, she stood tall, her eyes alert, her spirit unbroken. Samuel knew that this woman, this healer and protector, carried a weight far greater than most could imagine, and she did so with a bravery that inspired everyone around her. As the sun set and the sky turned a deep purple, Samuel felt a sense of peace he had not known in a long time. He had come seeking supplies but had found something far more valuable, a glimpse into courage, resilience, and the quiet power of a woman who would do anything to protect her people. And though the journey ahead would bring more challenges, Samuel was ready to face them, knowing that with Kaya's guidance, they could survive whatever the wild, unforgiving land might throw at them. The first day of their encounter ended with quiet reflection. Samuel sat by the campfire, watching Kaya move among the tribe, checking on those who were resting, offering a kind word or gentle touch. There was a rhythm to her movements, a balance between strength and compassion that left a lasting impression on him. He realized that the true story of this land was not just in its vast deserts or towering cliffs but in the people who lived here, who endured hardships with dignity and courage. And Samuel knew, deep in his heart, that this was only the beginning of a journey that would test them both in ways neither could yet imagine. Night had fallen over the desert plains, and the sky was filled with a blanket of stars, shining brightly in the clear, cold air. The desert, which seemed calm and quiet during the day, now held a different kind of energy, a stillness that made every sound sharper, every movement more noticeable. Samuel and Kaya had worked tirelessly since dawn, ensuring that the tribe was as safe as possible after the morning scare. Yet, there was a sense of urgency that neither could ignore. Something deeper and more dangerous was coming. Something that required immediate action. Kaya's instincts told her that they could not stay in the open plains any longer. She had noticed subtle signs during the day, footprints of raiders in the distance, the way some members of the tribe were restless, sensing a threat even if they did not fully understand it. She turned to Samuel, who was standing nearby, observing quietly. "We have to move," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Now." Samuel nodded without hesitation. He had come to trust her judgment completely. He had seen her lead the tribe through challenges with skill and courage, and he knew that her decisions were not made lightly. "Where do we go?" he asked, preparing to follow her wherever she led. Kaya pointed toward a narrow canyon several miles away, partially hidden by rocks and brush. "There is a safe place," she explained. "It is hidden from the main trail. We can keep the young and the injured there until it is safe to return." Her eyes were determined, but Samuel could see the strain behind them. The desert had already taken a toll on her body, but her mind remained sharp and focused. They quickly gathered a few of the most vulnerable members of the tribe: the elderly, the sick, and several children. Samuel helped carry water and supplies, while Kaya guided them with precision, instructing them when to walk, when to rest, and when to move quietly. Every step had to be calculated. The terrain was rough, and the raiders could appear at any moment. As they moved through the desert, the moonlight cast long shadows across the sand, making the path both beautiful and treacherous. Samuel led the horse, carrying some of the supplies, keeping a careful watch on the surrounding area. He could hear Kaya's steady voice giving instructions to the others, her words filled with authority and calm reassurance. She knew exactly how to maintain order, even in a situation that could easily have descended into chaos. Hours passed as they navigated the rugged landscape. The group encountered several obstacles along the way: a river swollen from recent rains, rocky ridges that had to be climbed carefully, and sudden patches of desert sand that threatened to trip even the most sure-footed among them. Samuel admired Kaya's skill as she led the group, always finding the safest path, always keeping spirits high despite the exhaustion everyone was feeling. At one point, the river loomed before them, its water moving swiftly and dangerously. Some of the children hesitated, afraid to cross. Kaya knelt beside them, her hand on the shoulder of one young boy. "You are stronger than you think," she whispered. "Take my hand, and I will guide you." Slowly, one by one, the children followed her lead, stepping carefully across the makeshift bridge of rocks she had chosen. Samuel watched, impressed by her patience and the way she could calm even the most frightened among them. As they continued, the sound of hooves grew closer. Samuel's heart raced, and he looked toward Kaya for guidance. She remained calm, scanning the horizon. "Keep moving," she instructed, her voice low but commanding. "We cannot stop. Not yet." The group picked up the pace, moving quickly but carefully, aware that they could be discovered at any moment. Finally, after what felt like hours, they reached the narrow canyon Kaya had mentioned earlier. It was hidden from view, surrounded by high rocks that created a natural barrier. The entrance was small, easily overlooked by anyone passing by. Samuel helped guide the horse and supplies into the canyon, while Kaya directed the tribe members to settle down. "Here, you will be safe," she said. "Rest, and do not move unless I tell you." The relief in the group was palpable. The children, who had been terrified during the journey, now began to relax, trusting Kaya completely. Even the adults, usually strong and stoic, allowed themselves a moment of rest. Samuel, too, felt a wave of exhaustion, but also a deep respect for the woman who had led them all through such a dangerous journey. Once everyone was settled, Kaya turned her attention to the injured and sick. She began to tend to them again, her hands moving quickly and efficiently. Samuel noticed how every action she took was precise and confident, yet gentle. She cleaned wounds, offered water, and reassured those who were frightened. Even in her exhaustion, she did not falter. Samuel assisted where he could, fetching water, holding cloths, and helping with the children. He watched Kaya closely, noticing the strain in her movements, the slight tremor in her hands as she worked tirelessly. He wanted to say something, to offer help in a way that would ease her burden, but he knew better than to interfere with her methods. She was a leader, a protector, and she knew exactly what needed to be done. As the night wore on, the wind picked up, carrying the dry, sandy scent of the desert. The temperature dropped sharply, and Samuel shivered despite his coat. Kaya, however, seemed unaffected by the cold, moving among the group with determination and focus. Samuel realized that her strength was not just physical. It was mental, emotional, and spiritual. She had endured hardships far greater than he could imagine, and yet she continued to fight for the well-being of her people. At one point, a child began to cry, waking others from their light sleep. Kaya approached, speaking softly and soothingly. "It is all right," she said. "You are safe now." Her voice had a calming effect, and within moments, the child stopped crying. Samuel marveled at her ability to remain composed and comforting, even in the middle of a night filled with fear and uncertainty. Hours passed, and the group finally began to rest. Samuel took a moment to look around the canyon, realizing how carefully Kaya had chosen this spot. The rocks provided natural protection. The narrow entrance made it difficult for outsiders to enter, and the surrounding landscape offered paths for escape if needed. Everything about this place reflected her knowledge and experience. Her ability to survive in a land that was both beautiful and unforgiving. But even in this moment of relative safety, Samuel knew that danger had not passed completely. The raiders could return, illness could spread, and the desert itself could pose new threats. Kaya remained vigilant, her eyes scanning the horizon, her ears alert for any sound that might signal danger. Samuel felt a deep admiration for her courage and resilience, realizing that her bravery was not the kind often celebrated in stories but the quiet, steadfast kind that truly made a difference. As the first light of dawn began to touch the canyon walls, Samuel and Kaya stood side by side, watching over the group. They had made it through the night, but the day ahead would bring new challenges. The journey had been long and exhausting, yet it had forged a bond between them, a silent understanding, a trust built through shared hardship and mutual respect. Samuel knew that this was only the beginning. The desert was vast and unpredictable, and the people they were protecting depended entirely on Kaya's leadership. He was ready to follow her wherever she led, knowing that together, they could face whatever trials lay ahead. Kaya, for her part, remained focused on the task at hand, her mind already planning the next steps to ensure the safety and well-being of her tribe. In that quiet canyon, under the soft morning light, a sense of determination filled the air. The journey was far from over, but Samuel and Kaya were prepared to face it together. Their path would be difficult, filled with danger, uncertainty, and moments that would test their courage and resilience. But in that moment, they shared a bond that could not be broken, a bond forged through trust, respect, and the unwavering desire to protect those who could not protect themselves. And so, with the canyon behind them and the vast desert ahead, they prepared to continue their journey, each step guided by courage, wisdom, and the knowledge that even in the harshest of lands, hope and strength could prevail. The journey through the desert had pushed everyone to their limits, yet Kaya remained determined. The sun had risen high in the sky, burning with an intensity that seemed almost unbearable. The group moved cautiously through the rocky terrain, the canyon behind them now a memory, and the vast, Open desert stretching endlessly ahead. The young children clung to their parents or to Kaya's steady hands, trusting her completely, while Samuel followed closely, ready to act at any sign of danger. Kaya's focus never wavered, even as fatigue began to creep into her movements. Her muscles ached from the long journey, and the heat of the day made her feel drained. But she pushed herself forward, refusing to show weakness. The tribe depended on her, and there was no room for hesitation. Every decision, every step, could mean the difference between safety and disaster. As they reached a narrow pass between two large rock formations, Kaya suddenly stopped. She crouched down and examined the ground carefully. "Footprints," she whispered, her voice tense but controlled. "We are not alone. Someone followed us." Samuel crouched beside her, scanning the horizon. He could see faint traces in the dust signs that raiders were moving in their direction. The realization brought a sudden surge of urgency. There was no time to rest. They had to keep moving, and they had to move quickly. Kaya turned to the group. "We must push forward. Stay close. Follow my lead, and do exactly as I say." Her tone left no room for argument. Samuel moved to the front, helping guide the children and carrying supplies as Kaya led the way. Scanning for the safest path through the jagged rocks, the group's pace quickened, driven by a mix of fear, determination, and trust in Kaya's leadership. Despite the pressure, Kaya's mind remained sharp. She calculated every step, choosing routes that minimized the risk of exposure and avoided unstable terrain. Yet, as the minutes turned into hours, the strain began to show. Her breathing grew heavier, her movements slightly less fluid, and Samuel could see the tension in her shoulders. He wanted to offer assistance, but Kaya's pride and determination were evident. She would not slow down, not when the lives of others depended on her. They encountered a steep incline that required careful climbing. Samuel helped one of the elderly tribe members, steadying him and encouraging him to keep going. Kaya, meanwhile, assisted the children, guiding their small hands over sharp rocks and through narrow gaps. Her determination was relentless, but the sun and exertion were taking a toll. Samuel noticed her grimace when she thought no one was looking, the faint tremor in her hands as she adjusted the blankets and supplies. At one point, a young boy stumbled and fell, scraping his knee. He cried out, the sound echoing through the rocks. Kaya immediately rushed to his side, lifting him into her arms and examining the wound. Her hands were steady, her voice calm, as she cleaned the scrape and bandaged it. Samuel watched in admiration, knowing that her compassion was as strong as her courage. She was willing to endure any hardship to protect these people. Yet he could see that the effort was draining her. As they continued, the group reached a narrow gorge where the path became treacherous. Loose rocks threatened to send someone tumbling, and the wind carried dust that stung their eyes. Kaya led the way, carefully testing each step, and instructed the others to follow exactly. Samuel helped steady a child who had grown too tired to walk on her own, while Kaya moved forward, her hands gripping the rocks as she guided the group. Every moment required attention, patience, and courage. By midday, the sun had reached its peak, and the desert heat was relentless. Kaya paused for a brief moment, wiping the sweat from her brow and taking a deep breath. Samuel noticed the strain in her face, the fatigue that threatened to slow her down. "You need to rest," he said softly. "Just for a few minutes. You've been moving non-stop." Kaya shook her head, refusing to slow down. "I cannot," she replied firmly. "We are almost there. If we stop now, we risk everything." Samuel understood her determination but also knew the human body had limits. He kept a careful eye on her, prepared to step in if she could not continue. The group pressed on, navigating a narrow ledge that overlooked a steep drop. Samuel led the children one by one, ensuring their safety, while Kaya moved ahead, scanning the path for hazards. Sweat poured down her face, and her breathing became heavier. But she did not slow. She pushed herself to the edge of endurance, driven by the need to protect the tribe and ensure their survival. Suddenly, one of the young girls tripped on a loose stone, her small cry piercing the tense silence. Kaya reacted instantly, reaching out and catching the girl before she fell. Her strength and agility were remarkable. Yet Samuel noticed a flicker of pain cross her face as she lifted the child to safety. Even the strongest warriors have moments when the weight of their duty becomes almost too much to bear. As they reached the final stretch of their journey, the hidden canyon Kaya had identified in advance came into view. It was partially concealed by large boulders, offering a natural refuge from any potential threats. Relief washed over the group, and the children's faces brightened as they realized they were almost safe. Kaya, however, did not slow her pace. She led them into the canyon, positioning the children and vulnerable adults in the most protected spots. Once everyone was settled, Kaya finally allowed herself a moment to pause. She sank to the ground, exhausted, and placed her hands on her knees. Samuel moved to her side, offering water. She took it gratefully but still refused to sit back completely. She began tending to the injured, carefully checking bandages, distributing water, and making sure everyone was as comfortable as possible. Samuel could see that the strain of the journey was catching up to her. Her movements were slower. Her hands trembled slightly, and a faint pallor had taken over her normally vibrant face. He gently suggested she rest while he took over some of the tasks. "You've done enough," he said softly. "Let me help now." Kaya shook her head, determined to finish her work before allowing herself to rest. She moved from person to person, attending to wounds and checking on the children. Samuel helped where he could, carrying supplies and assisting with the care of the sick. He watched her carefully, noting the signs of fatigue, but also the unwavering dedication in her eyes. Hours passed, and the sun began to dip toward the horizon. The temperature cooled slightly, but Kaya's exhaustion had not lessened. Her body trembled from the combined effects of heat, exertion, and stress. Samuel, realizing the danger of pushing herself too far, insisted she sit down and rest. Reluctantly, she agreed, leaning against a rock while he continued to care for the group. As she rested, Kaya reflected on the journey. She had led her people through danger, protected the vulnerable, and ensured their safety. Yet, for the first time, she felt the full weight of her responsibility pressing down on her. The physical pain, the emotional stress, and the relentless pressure had left her vulnerable, revealing the human side of someone who had always been seen as nearly invincible. Samuel remained by her side, offering water and quiet encouragement. "Even the strongest need help," he said gently. Kaya looked at him, understanding the truth in his words. She had always believed that asking for help was a sign of weakness, but now she saw that accepting support could be an act of strength. It did not diminish her courage or her leadership. It allowed her to continue protecting those who depended on her. As night fell once more, the group settled into the canyon, finally able to rest. Kaya leaned back against the rock, her body weary but her spirit still strong. Samuel watched her with admiration, recognizing the extraordinary bravery and determination she had displayed. The journey had tested them all, but it had also revealed the resilience of the human spirit, the power of trust, and the importance of compassion. In the quiet of the canyon, Kaya finally allowed herself to close her eyes, knowing that she had done everything possible to protect her people. Samuel remained nearby, ready to respond to any need, sharing the burden of responsibility that had weighed so heavily on her. Together, they had faced the desert's challenges, navigated danger, and ensured the safety of those who could not protect themselves. And though Kaya could not yet fully release the tension in her body, she had learned something profound, that courage is not measured by the absence of pain or fear, but by the willingness to endure, to act, and to accept support when it is needed. The first rays of sunlight began to stretch across the desert, casting a warm, golden glow over the canyon where Kaya and the tribe had taken refuge. The night had been long and tense, filled with exhaustion, vigilance, and the faint echoes of past dangers. Kaya rose slowly, feeling the weight of the previous day's trials in every muscle of her body. She had been pushed to her limits, yet the sight of the tribe resting safely around her filled her with a quiet pride. Samuel was nearby, checking the supplies and ensuring that everyone had enough water for the day. The canyon was calm now, almost peaceful, though the memory of their journey lingered in every glance. Children stirred, rubbing sleep from their eyes, while the elderly adjusted their blankets, looking more at ease than they had the night before. Kaya moved among them, her hands gentle but firm, offering reassurance with a simple word, a touch on the shoulder, or a small smile. She had spent so long leading, guiding, and protecting. And now, in the soft morning light, she could finally allow herself to take a breath and see the results of her efforts. Samuel watched her quietly, marveling at her resilience. He had seen many people endure hardship, but Kaya's strength was something extraordinary, not just physical, but mental and emotional. She had carried the weight of the tribe on her shoulders and had done so with courage and grace. And yet, he noticed the faint tremor in her hands, the slight fatigue in her eyes, and he realized that even the strongest needed support. Kaya approached Samuel, offering him a small, tired smile. "We made it," she said softly. "Everyone is safe. That is what matters." Samuel nodded, understanding the depth of her words. Safety was not just the absence of immediate danger. It was the result of tireless effort, careful planning, and unwavering determination. And Kaya had given everything she had to achieve it. As the group began to prepare for the day, Kaya took a moment to assess their situation. They were safe for now, but the desert was unpredictable, and resources were limited. She instructed some of the adults to gather firewood and edible plants, while others checked on the sick and injured. Samuel helped wherever he could, moving quietly among the tribe, lending strength where it was needed. His presence was steady, a silent support that allowed Kaya to focus on the most pressing tasks without worrying about the smaller details. Despite the relief of surviving the night, Kaya could not ignore the lingering pain in her body. Her muscles ached from the long journey, her hands were sore from tending to wounds, and the emotional weight of responsibility pressed heavily on her mind. She knew that she needed to rest properly, to regain her strength for the challenges that lay ahead. Samuel, noticing her fatigue, insisted again that she take a break. This time, she agreed, sitting down on a flat rock and closing her eyes for a few moments, allowing herself a brief respite. The children, sensing her weariness, gathered quietly around her. They looked up with curiosity and admiration, as if recognizing the extraordinary effort she had put forth to keep them safe. Kaya reached out, placing a gentle hand on the head of one child, who smiled shyly in response. In that small moment, she felt a profound connection to the people she had devoted herself to protecting. Her courage had not only ensured their safety, but had also inspired trust, hope, and comfort. Samuel prepared a simple breakfast, using what little supplies they had left. He offered Kaya a portion, encouraging her to eat and regain energy. She accepted, her movements slow but appreciative. As they ate, they spoke quietly about the previous day's journey, reflecting on the challenges they had faced and the lessons they had learned. Samuel shared his admiration for her leadership, while Kaya spoke of the responsibility she felt toward her people and the importance of staying vigilant in such a harsh environment. Once breakfast was finished, Kaya resumed her duties, tending to the sick and injured. Samuel assisted, carrying water and helping to clean wounds. Together, they moved with a rhythm born of shared experience, their actions coordinated and efficient. The group began to regain a sense of normalcy, their trust in Kaya and Samuel growing stronger with every passing hour. The desert, once a source of danger and uncertainty, now seemed more manageable, though its challenges were far from over. As the day progressed, Kaya took a moment to teach some of the younger members of the tribe simple survival skills. She showed them how to find safe water sources, identify edible plants, and navigate the rocky terrain. Samuel watched, impressed by her patience and dedication. She was not only a protector but also a teacher, ensuring that the next generation would have the knowledge and confidence to survive in this harsh land. Despite the calm, Kaya remained alert. Her eyes constantly scanned the horizon, aware that danger could return at any moment. Samuel understood her vigilance, knowing that it was not fear, but responsibility that drove her. He admired her ability to balance care, courage, and awareness, recognizing that true leadership required more than strength. It required wisdom, patience, and foresight. As the afternoon sun began to lower, Samuel and Kaya took a brief walk along the canyon's edge. The view was breathtaking, with the desert stretching endlessly in all directions, painted in shades of gold and orange. Kaya paused, taking a deep breath of the dry, warm air. "It is beautiful," she said quietly. "Even in the harshest places, there is beauty to be found." Samuel nodded, understanding the truth in her words. The desert was unforgiving, yet it was also full of life, resilience, and quiet wonder. In that moment of peace, Kaya allowed herself to reflect on the journey. The challenges had been immense, pushing her to the limits of endurance. She had felt pain, fear, and exhaustion, yet she had persevered. Samuel's presence had been a steady support, reminding her that strength could be shared, and that accepting help did not diminish courage. She realized that the bonds formed through shared struggle were powerful and enduring, capable of giving hope even in the most difficult circumstances. As evening approached, Kaya gathered the tribe for a brief meeting. She spoke gently but firmly, offering guidance for the coming days. She reminded them of the importance of staying together, conserving resources, and helping one another. Her words were met with nods of understanding and gratitude. Samuel watched, admiring the respect and trust she commanded. She had earned it, not through authority alone, but through consistent care, courage, and unwavering dedication. Night fell once again, and the canyon grew quiet. The group settled down, children close to their parents, elders resting with a sense of security, and the injured lying safely on blankets. Kaya finally allowed herself to sit, leaning against a rock and closing her eyes. Samuel remained nearby, ensuring that everything was in order. The trials of the day were behind them, but the lessons remained. Courage was not the absence of pain. Leadership was not the absence of vulnerability. And true strength often lay in compassion, patience, and resilience. Before sleep overtook her, Kaya reflected on what had happened. She had led her people through danger, faced her own limits, and witnessed the power of trust and collaboration. She had learned that asking for help did not weaken her. It strengthened the bonds between those who worked together. Samuel had shown her that support could be offered without diminishing her authority or courage, and in turn, she had inspired him with her steadfast determination and skill. The night air was cool and soothing, and the stars above twinkled like distant beacons of hope. Kaya allowed herself to rest fully for the first time in days, knowing that she had done everything possible to ensure the safety of those she cared for. Samuel, sitting nearby, felt a sense of calm and accomplishment as well. Together, they had faced the challenges of the desert, navigated danger, and preserved life in a harsh, unforgiving world. As sleep overtook the canyon, the bond between Kaya and Samuel had solidified into something unspoken but undeniable. It was a connection built on trust, respect, and shared hardship. A recognition of the strength and humanity in one another. And while the desert would continue to test them in the days to come, they had proven that courage, compassion, and determination could overcome even the most daunting obstacles. The story of that day, the night of danger, the long journey, and the quiet moments of reflection would remain in their memories forever. Kaya had shown that even in the face of immense pain and exhaustion, one could endure and protect those who could not protect themselves. Samuel had witnessed firsthand the extraordinary power of human resilience and the quiet strength of a leader who put others before herself. As dawn broke again over the canyon, bringing warmth and light to the desert, Kaya rose, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The journey had been long and exhausting, but it had also been a testament to the courage, endurance, and humanity that resided within her. And in that moment, the canyon was not just a place of refuge. It was a symbol of survival, hope, and the extraordinary capacity of people to rise above pain, danger, and fear when guided by determination and care.